Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is not one of the happiest videos, but it is something I need to do, and I have a bunch of other videos recorded, and I just need to actually get this video out before I continue posting again. So pretty much, you've seen the title, you know what this video is about. So Smores has unfortunately passed away. She did end up passing away back in October, very unexpectedly, and I think the fact that it was so unexpected, and it was hard for me to wrap my head around. Plus, I'm also in college, so I wasn't home for this, which makes me feel worse, and I'll explain why. But it didn't feel real until I went in my sister's room and her cage just wasn't even there. So it was really a bad situation. So how I like to do these videos is I like to talk about their entire life all the way up until their passing, and I'll include a bunch of videos and pictures. Some of them are from my YouTube videos, which I realize I don't have very many YouTube videos, so very small clips, and a lot of them are older. So a very small section of this will be YouTube videos. A bunch of this video will be pictures, and also videos taken from a phone. That's why it's the other angle. So bear with me. I was trying to put a lot of stuff that I had in here, and obviously I did not record much, which I obviously regret a ton now. So basically, let's see, so where to start? So we did get her we did get her 2 years ago. I'll put the exact date up. It was we got her when we got back from a vacation trip, so it was around March-ish, I think, because my family went on February vacation, and they had planned to take her, and basically the whole situation before we got her was that she was in a home with her sibling, which at the time, they both thought they were boys. Everyone thought they were boys, and including the person they got the rabbits from, and this person was actually one of my sister's friends at the time, and she got both of them. She got the 2 rabbits at 9 months old, and so the other rabbit at 9 months old, and my sister's rabbit at 6 months old. And she asked my sister if she would take my sister's rabbit because they started getting into fights, and the other rabbit had been attacking S'mores, which ended up leaving a scar on her ear. So my sister did end up taking the rabbit. So she was only probably 9, I think she was 9 months at the time that we officially brought her to our house. So, yeah, and then we got her, everything was good. She had this lovely personality. She had a little sassiness to her. But when we got her, we brought her to the vet just for an initial checkup, and the vet said, "You actually have a girl." So then my sister told her friend, and the other rabbit ended up being a girl too, which kind of makes sense why they didn't really get along, because it's with rabbits, females tend to fight more. So yeah, so she ended up being a female, but the checkup was fine. The doctor said everything looks normal. She's a very healthy rabbit. She just needs to put on a little bit of weight because she was a little bit underweight. So we worked on that. So we ended up so she started off in like a little dog crate kennel, and then we ended up upgrading her to this huge, for that, she was like that for a while we were building the big cage, and we got her dream mansion cage built, and she was in this ginormous cage. Obviously, she wasn't in the cage all the time, but since she was in my sister's room and did like to pee on my sister's bed, she couldn't be left out during the day while my sister was at school. So when my sister got home, she'd let her out and let her run around the room with supervision, because also my sister had cords and stuff for her to get into, and it just wouldn't have been safe. But she did have a lot more space. Then we ended up adding a second level to our cage, which I don't think I have that documented, unfortunately, but you can see in some pictures. She ended up having a small second level that she could hop onto, and then a ramp leading up to a small third level, because she liked to run around. So she spent so much time running up and down, and she'd get on that top level, and right at that top level is eye level with my sister's bed, so she would just stare down my sister. I'm trying to think what else. She flopped all the time, which obviously means that rabbits are really happy, and it just made us so happy, because you'd just be watching her and she'd sit there and then she'd just flop over, and it was so cute. You'd walk by the room, like if I were to walk by my sister's room and she was out, she'd come sprinting to the front of the door and would just start like buzzing, so you just hear like sprinting at you, and it was so cute. And you always had to pat her when you walked by her, everyone in my family, and she was just this really cuddly bunny. And more closer to the end, she was starting to get like, she would hop up on us and lay on us, and she was so cute, and she just loved attention. So fast forward to January of last year. So we got her in 2020. Fast forward to January of 2021. I gave her some lettuce and I gave her some pellets, or I held her and was giving her lettuce, and I put her down and gave her a scoop of pellets. And then I was just watching her, and then she started like, kind of like breathing in and out really fast, and then just froze and like wouldn't move, wouldn't chew. I was like, what is she doing? Then she started freaking out, sprinting all around the cage, and I had no idea what was going on. She was just sprinting out, so obviously I didn't leave, and I opened the doors and I tried to call her to me and she wouldn't come. So she was obviously really scared of something, and then she was freaking out and then stopped, and I saw pellet, like green, like stuff coming out of her nose, which was obviously pellets. So I know rabbits don't have a gag reflex. So I ended up realizing, oh my gosh, she's choking on pellets. And I freaked out, because the rabbits, you have to do a special Heimlich too, which I'll pop up a picture of like a demo diagram of how to do it. But obviously I was scared, because the way you have to do it is just, it doesn't look ethical. But pretty much you have to use gravity and swing the rabbit towards the ground. And my sister wasn't home. I was like bawling my eyes out because I was so scared, and she wasn't home, and I was afraid my sister was going to come back to her rabbit dead, and I felt like it would be my fault because I gave her the pellets, which obviously it wasn't. So I ended up looking at all these videos real quick, acting really fast, started doing the Heimlich. I did end up getting a bunch of stuff out, and then she stopped like freaking out. Stuff stopped coming out of her nose and everything just stopped. So I was just like, okay, like, she's good now. And then I did it a couple more times to double check, and nothing came out. And I was like, okay, this is good. But then all of a sudden, she just stopped moving. She wouldn't move. She was breathing really, really fast. Her heart rate was very high. So then I was like, all right, let's take her to the vet. Closest vet that was open was 45 minutes away. Mind you, this is at 11 o'clock at night, so we had to go to an emergency vet. And we called everywhere close, like even small animal vets, and they would just say, oh, our rabbit specialist isn't here, so you can't come here. Which really frustrates me, because if a rabbit is dying, you're concerned about your rabbit dying, and they just say, oh, the specialist isn't here, even though we're a small animal vet. Like, that was so hard. Like, props to my mom. She literally called, like, 5 or 6 different places. And then she finally called that place. We went there. I went with her. Mind you, we didn't tell my sister any of this yet because we didn't know what would happen. Brought her to the vet. I explained everything that happened. And the vet said that she was choking on pellets. And pretty much I had saved her life. So that made me feel good that what I did was the right thing. But at the same point, I was just in shock. And the vet did do an x-ray and everything to make sure there were no holes or anything. And did a thorough examination and said that she seems fine. And that this is a common thing for rabbits. Keep that in mind. This is a common thing for rabbits, is what she said. And obviously, I ended up working at this vet in the future. And the person that saw the bunny is not a small animal specialist. She's just a regular dog and cat vet. But she ultimately lied about that, which is frustrating. And again, I wouldn't have known unless I had worked at that vet in the future. So now that I know that, I'm like kind of like, what the heck? But whatever. So then they said she's also really dehydrated for some reason. So they gave her a ton of fluids, sent her home with some pain meds and some inflammation meds, and also some upper respiratory meds. I don't remember their names, but just to prevent an upper respiratory infection and that. And then she also said to give her critical care, which I had some left. Actually, no, Peach hadn't passed yet. So I had some with Peach, so that was fine. So, then I ended up, so, yeah, so then we brought her home, did the whole round of meds, gave her a bunch of critical care. She ended up gaining weight because we weighed her, because the vet said make sure you weigh her every day, weigh her every day after every meal, and make sure she's gaining weight. She was. Everything was looking up. Then and everything was fine. She was still then after about like 2 or 3 days, she was her normal happy self, eating again, drinking again, like everything was fine. Then when was the next time that it happened? I'm trying to think. I think it was around, it was October. So the first time this happened, this was in January. Now, October of 2021, it happened again. And I was like, and my sister was there that time, or my sister was home this time, and she was that one that actually saw it. She came sprinting in my room at midnight. It always happens when it's late at night. Came sprinting in my room at midnight, and she's like, I don't know what's going on with the bunny. I think she's doing that thing that she did last time. You said stuff was coming out of her nose, right? I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, she's doing it again. So I ran back in there, went through the whole process again. Like, did the rabbit Heimlich a second time. And then, so went through it a second time, and that was all good. Except this time, instead of freezing, right after I got the stuff out and made sure everything was out of her nose, and after it was wiped off and everything, she went back to her normal self. And the vet had told me before, next time, that I would not need to bring her in if it happened again. So, I ended up doing that. She was fine. And, yeah, she literally a couple minutes after I did the Heimlich, she was running around, like, she was eating lettuce again and drinking water and hopping around. So that time wasn't as severe as the first time, but obviously still scary. So, yeah, I forgot to mention from that vet visit. Important point, she said, if this happens again, it's normal. Just do the Heimlich thing again. You don't need to bring her back in. That's another important key point. So this is the second time it's happened since in the matter of a year, which, again, isn't necessarily normal. So, which now I know. I've talked to every other I've talked to so many rabbit owners, and they have never had this happen to them before. So the fact that this is common, I don't believe it. But whatever. And another important point, with the rabbit Heimlich, as I popped up on the diagrams, I'll pop it up again. The rabbit Heimlich, you run the risk of breaking the rabbit's back when you do it. So when you're doing that, you have to hold a tight grip, but not too tight because they're fragile. So you can't squish them, but you can't hold them too loose because you could snap their back or their neck, because that can happen really easily. So it's very hard to do that. But then if you don't do that, then she'll die because she can't get the stuff that's stuck in her nose and her throat out of there because she has no gag reflex. So she can't get it out herself. So either you leave her alone and she dies, or you attempt to do the rabbit Heimlich, get the stuff up, and she lives, or attempt to do it and she passes. So obviously every time I do it, it's scary. So I had to do it twice in the matter of a year. So then once again, everything was back to normal. Everything was fine. She was our happy little self. Then fast forward to October of 2022. I'm in college and I get a call from my sister and she's bawling her eyes out. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And she goes, the bunny died. I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it at first. She's like, the bunny died. I was like, what do you mean? Like, how? She goes, well, she started doing that thing again where stuff was coming out of her nose. Now, this is 3 times in the matter of 2 years that this has happened. And 3 times, which is ridiculous. It's happened 3 times. And she's like, the rabbit's doing the thing with their nose again. Stuff is coming out of her nose. She goes, I went to go and tell mom, and she tried to do the Heimlich thing, and then she just froze up in mom's arms and died. So I wasn't there, so my mom and my sister had to look up how to do it, and it sucks because part of me is like, I don't know, because so it left the responsibility to my mom, and obviously my mom felt awful because I had done it twice before and it worked, and she did it and she ended up passing away. But the thing is, the part that's different about this time is when the whole reason why my sister was even found out this time was because she was running around in the room while my sister was downstairs eating dinner, obviously made sure wires were off the floor and everything. And she went upstairs, gave her a cup of, or no, I remember now. My brother went upstairs and gave her a cup of pellets and then accidentally let her out. So then he ran downstairs, told my sister the bunny accidentally got out and she can't be in the room by herself. So my sister went upstairs to try to get her. This was like a couple minutes after, and she was in there like choking. So we don't know how long she had been choking for, if she had just started or if it was a few minutes. But it isn't normal that you have to constantly look out for this in general. But so she ended up going upstairs and seeing her like that, obviously telling my mom and everything, and they looked up videos and tried to do it. So my mom ended up doing it, then my dad ended up doing it, then my mom tried doing it again, and they did end up getting a good amount of stuff up, according to them. So either she had already been choking and stuff had gotten, she had gotten so much stuff in her lungs and in her nose and everything, it was too late. She didn't get all the stuff out, or all the stuff had gotten out and her neck had gotten snapped or her back had gotten snapped, but she just like tensed up and that was it. And it was just so sad because part of me is like, maybe if I was there I could fix it, but then at the same point, this is the third time that this has happened and the vet is telling me this is normal. So I don't know, I feel like something deep down was going on. Like she had some sort of underlying issue because this isn't normal. And I don't blame anybody, and nobody, like, I know people that dealt with it felt really bad. It wasn't their fault at all. So yeah, unfortunately S'mores is gone. Like I said, she passed away beginning of October. I think it was like the first week of October, if I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was like the first week of October. I don't have the exact date on that because I've waited so long to do this video. But yeah, I need to get this video up so then I can post more. And I've had time to think about it and wrap my head around it. We were in an awful situation and the vet lied and wasn't even an actual exotic vet, which I know now. And she clearly had something wrong, and it sucks. The whole situation sucks. So yeah, so unfortunately S'mores has passed away. She was about 2 or 3, I'm trying to think. Got her in beginning of 2020, and she was 9 months old. So beginning of 21, she would have been a year and 9 months. And then beginning of 2022, she would have been 2 years and 9 months. Then by October, yeah. So she was a little over 2 years old. But probably around 2 years and 6 months. So 2.5 years. So sad. Like I said, she was only 2.5 years old. And it's awful. And whenever an animal passes, you always feel like, what could I have done? What did I not do? Like, I'm such an awful person for letting this happen. But in the end, we did all that we could at the time. When you're told by the vet this is normal, you listen to them because they're a professional. And now I know when deep down you know something's wrong, you know it's wrong. So it's very, very unfortunate situation, but nothing we can do now. It happened, and you can't dwell on the past and about what you could have done because it just eats away at you. But that is the end of this video, and it is a very, very sad one. Sorry. And yeah, so to close it out, I'll just say goodbye, S'mores.